Hey Joe, how are you?
Hey, Conrad, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. We've got a couple people who are going to be chiming in. They responded to the email and the text. Hey Joe, how are you?
Hey, Conrad, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Got a couple people who are going to be chiming in. They responded to the email and the text. Hey Joe, how are you?
Hey, Conrad, how you doing?
Is that coming from your end, Joe?
Yeah, I'm hearing like a broadcast.
Yeah, you probably have it playing back in a window at the same time.
What was that? I can't. What should I do?
Do you still hear it, or is it quiet?
I can still hear it in the background, but
I think we might be good. Just make sure that it's not playing in the window where you click like start to come to this.
okay, hold on.
Just make sure you don't accidentally have another one open. That it's not playing in the window where you click like start to come to this.
Okay, there's that. So I should only be open in the one window?
Yeah.
Hold on. Is that better?
I think it might be. Otherwise, weirdness happens, as you heard.
Yeah, no, I understand completely.
It's nice and quiet now. I think we'll be fine.
Good.
Cool. Let's see what we got.
So is it just you and I at this point?
Right now, it's just us.
Okay.
And I just sent out I'm going to send a second email. Well, like
Okay.
a last minute reminder email. I just sent the Facebook messages to the people that I could get on Facebook.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then I'm going to send out a couple last minute posts.
I don't remember if I asked you this, Conrad, but like, what's the maximum length of one of these that you can schedule?
A fairly long time. I think they let you schedule in advance about 7 hours.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
So yeah, you could schedule in advance a fairly long time.
Yeah. And the reason I ask is I'm in addition to the live event that I do, I'm considering scheduling a full-on version of the live event on a Hangout. I just think it makes sense for people that just aren't going to physically come out to the live event.
Yeah, you could actually do that because they let you go for a long time.
Yeah, I need about 2 hours tops. So
Yeah. Yeah, you could. And again, all of it goes live directly to YouTube.
yeah, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah, I just need a little work practicing how to incorporate the PowerPoint with this, which I can imagine is probably not that difficult.
No, it's not. Once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
You just have to get used to the toggle between the screen share and not.
Sure.
If you're not used to it, it makes it a little weird and kind of clunky to jump back and forth, but it's really not that bad.
Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
And then again, the same thing. Some people can watch using the stream.
Sure.
Using
Yeah,
the
that's
YouTube
good.
stream. So I'll keep an eye out. I'm going to have a separate browser window open.
Okay.
And I will keep an eye on that.
Okay, no problem.
Just in case.
And you, just like last time, feel free to go whatever direction you want to go. I'll follow your lead, and
Sure.
at some point get out the information about the live event to the people too.
Yep.
Which I'm sure I know you already do.
Yep. Okay, it's 8 now. We'll just give everyone an extra minute or two.
Okay.
If anyone is watching the live feed right now on YouTube, welcome. It's 8 o'clock. Going to be talking about how to get started in real estate investing. I'm Conrad Flynn. I am a real estate investor, and I am joined by real estate investing expert and fellow investor Joe Beck, who is on the line with us. We're going to hang out, have some fun, share some cool stuff and some cool ideas. But we are going to wait just a couple extra moments and let some of our other guests sort of filter in here. We have a 8 o'clock start time, and we're going to have a little soft start. I know everyone's a little bit busy in the evenings with the kids and everything else. So we're going to wait just a couple extra moments to let people chime in. And if you are watching right now on the YouTube feed, you just need to know this one important piece of information. That is, you will be able to watch us live, but you may not be able to participate and ask a question unless you click the Google Hangout link, and then you could join us live in the Hangout, and you could actually use a chat box and participate and interact with us live, because we are really live in real life, and we're real life people. So if you want to participate, please, by all means, you can use the Google Hangouts button and join us here. But we'll give an extra couple moments, like I said, for our other friends to filter in.
I can't wait, Conrad. I've been waiting all day for this. It's the highlight of my day, actually.
Is it?
It is. Are you kidding me? Absolutely, it's a highlight of my day. I've been looking forward to this.
Good, good. Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm most excited about is that we get the opportunity to share with a lot of new people who might not otherwise get an easy introduction to this content.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you know what, and that's sometimes, the old adage about first impressions. Sometimes somebody that's interested in real estate, they get the wrong information right out of the gate, and unfortunately it either scares them off, intimidates them, puts them in a place where they're just not feeling comfortable, and it's so hard because they miss out on so much. I mean, you know as well as I do that that's one of the things that holds people back. So a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, and I think now that we're sort of talking about that, I think that might be a really good jumping off point, because that's something that we hear a lot about. And actually, I did a post for a lot of friends of ours that got a couple questions coming my way, and I sort of revealed earlier in the week that I got into real estate investing as a hobby, and I got involved in real estate investing with David, who you've met, Joe, who is who is my closest friend, and we really enjoy working together and having fun together. And it was just kind of natural as we both got interested and more interested in real estate that we would work together. So
Yeah.
we just kind of jumped in as a hobby, and we're having tons of fun with it. We still are. And because we started doing that, it kind of brought a lot of people out of the woodwork, people that we know personally, neighbors, friends, and people from school and work who saw what we had going on, following us on Facebook or otherwise.
Yeah.
And it sort of brought it to the forefront as something that maybe they wouldn't have thought about. And so there's a lot of people who I think are interested in dipping their foot in investing, but aren't really sure what that means, and they're certainly not sure how to start. So we wind up getting a lot of new people who are really interested but don't know where to begin. And these people come from all different backgrounds and all different situations. And I'm really kind of surprised how many different types of people are interested in getting in. Literally, you have everyone from retirees to people who are into their career, who maybe whose kids are grown and older and out of the house. And then you have people who, like a friend of mine, Nicole, reached out to join in on this broadcast, who are, is young children still in the house, like with two parents working, and are really interested in pursuing something like this, not only as an investment, but also who are interested in making some extra cash and also learning how to buy properties a little bit differently, that they might also use some of these tools to buy a home for themselves.
Sure.
And so there's a lot of different ways to go at it. And Joe, I know you probably see even more than I do, but even in the last couple of weeks, my eyes are getting opened to all these different possibilities. Talk to us about some of the different people that you see coming into real estate investing for the first time, and the different types of scenarios and situations that you've been helping people out with, because I think a lot of people dip one toe in and decide that it's not for them for some reason, but actually there's a lot of different opportunities, and real estate investing is really a really wide area. And
Sure.
I think anybody who wants to put some work in and make a little extra money, whether it's an active income for a while or as an investment, there's a lot of opportunity there. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the people that you're seeing come in and some of the different opportunities they're finding?
Sure. You hit the nail on the head, Conrad. I mean, you see all kinds of different people in all kinds of different situations. I've worked with people recently that are pre-retirees that have taken a look at their retirement funds, and they quickly realize that, their 401k became a 201k. They have half of what they thought they had, and they're in a situation where they have to do something. They know that where they sit right now, they're not going to be able to live comfortably through retirement. So certainly that's one segment. I have a couple of students I'm thinking of right now. One is a father and one is his son. The father is in a job that he's not exactly thrilled with, I think, and would love to be able to not be doing it. And he doesn't want his son to be going through the same type things that he's going through. So his son's very young. His son, I believe, is 19, 20 years old. And he's trying to get him started in something that would prevent him from getting into a job that may not be what he wants. So that's a segment. But what's really becoming a rapidly growing segment of the people that are looking at real estate investing is for that the people that are looking for just basic supplementation. Just how do I go out and make another $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a month? Because let's face it, when you sit down and you look at real estate investing, everybody knows you can make money investing in real estate. You can buy a rental property and make a couple of bucks every month in that rental property, maybe 100, 200, maybe as much as $300 a month in cash flow. But they also realize at the same time that, $100, $200, $300 a month probably isn't changing their life. It probably isn't getting them out of a job. It probably isn't filling in the gaps of some of the other things. So probably the most rapidly growing segment of the real estate investing community is the people that need to go out and make some short-term income, whether it's to supplement their current job that isn't quite getting it done, or to eventually replace a job that they feel that they're kind of, in a dead end with. And that seems to be where a large percentage of the people that I work with are coming from right now.
And I think a lot of people have the misconception who are in those situations that just because we call it real estate investing and obviously the house flipping shows that you see on TV kind of builds the misconception that in order to jump in, that I need to have a huge pile of cash.
Well, that is certainly one of the big misconceptions, and people misunderstand that. Everybody wants to believe that they can go out and make a fortune doing anything, right? And watch these reality TV shows, and they make it sound so simple. They just went out, they found this property, all the money problems just seem to take care of themselves. Everything goes according to plan. Maybe there's a little hiccup to add to the drama for the show. And at the end of it, they sell the property, they make $80,000 to $100,000, and everybody lives happily ever after. Well, anybody who's ever actually been through that in real life knows that the story is completely different. It doesn't end that way. There's always a couple of things they always say. People that flip houses typically say two things. They say, boy, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And the second thing that they always say is, boy, I didn't make anywhere near as much money as I thought I was going to make going into this. So, yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. Here's where I like to start with people. I like to tell people straight up front, it doesn't take money to make money investing in real estate. It doesn't take good credit to make money investing in real estate. If you have those things, it can make it a little easier. But I'm going to tell you that if you really want to learn the right way to invest in real estate, learn how to make money without using your own money. Learn how to make money without using your own credit, without financing something yourself. Because the reality is, if you can go out and make money that way without risking those things at all, you can go make money in any set of circumstances at any time. You're not limited by your own financial situation. And I've worked with a lot of people, and in a couple of minutes, I'll get into briefly my background. I won't bore people with it, but I'm just going to get into the sheer volume of things that I've done with people. And it seems that there's two buckets of people that have a little money getting started, and they come up with a way of sometimes not handling that money the right way. And there's other people that have very little to nothing when they start, and they're able to do amazing things because they learn the right way of doing it without exposing their own money, without exposing their credit. And they tend to do a little bit better. And, I've had the good fortune of working with people in both situations. I've seen what people can do, and believe it doesn't have anything to do with money. It doesn't have anything to do with credit.
I want to circle back around to that and talk about some of those methods. Because I think that is something that a lot more beginners can and should be utilizing. And I think it's something really powerful that you have to teach, and I'd love to be sharing that with the viewers tonight. But before we dig too far in, what I do want to do is I want to take a step back, because we're a little bit more than 12 minutes into the broadcast here tonight. Yeah. And I do know that we've got some friends joining who have been watching right now on the live YouTube feed, which is most convenient for people, especially if you're watching on your smartphone. And if you do want to participate live, like I said at the onset of the broadcast, just make sure you use the Google Hangout link so you can actually participate. However, if you are watching the YouTube feed and you don't have access to Google Hangouts, just know that I will take your questions and relay them back to Joe personally. And every one of you have already got a text message and an email from me if you're RSVP'd, so you can obviously reach me there. Some of you have me on Facebook chat as well, so you can reach me there. So at any point where we do some Q&A, just know that if you're watching it on YouTube, you got to reach me in a different way, and I'll bring that message or that question back for Joe here at the live broadcast. But everyone already kind of has an idea of who I am, because I introduced myself right after you RSVP'd. I'm Conrad. I am not a real estate expert, although I get accused of being one from time to time. I am a local real estate investor. However, I got first involved in real estate investing about 18 months ago, where my friend and I started a real estate investment company as a hobby outside of our full-time jobs, and we started investing in some properties. And right now, we own a handful of rentals in the Carbon Schuylkill County area. And we're doing this live broadcast tonight to bring you a local friend and real estate expert, Joseph Paul Beck, who is joining me live. And Joe, what I want to do is I actually want to give you the opportunity to share a little bit about your background and where you come from and how you got first started in real estate. I think is a really interesting part of the story. I'm going to just act as the facilitator tonight, and I'm going to let Joe, who is definitely the expert hands-on with hundreds of real estate transactions under his belt, and who is also based right here in northeastern and east central PA, I'm going to let him provide most of the nuggets and most of that content, and I'll just act as the facilitator and get your questions answered. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about how you got started. I know you have an incredible story and you have a lot of experience working with this stuff hands-on. How'd you first get in?
Sure. You know what? I first got started investing in real estate when I was about 21 years old. And by started, I meant I spent $39 to buy one of those late night infomercial books and tape series type thing. And it sat there for about 15 years. I never did anything with it. It didn't make me any money. It didn't generate any interest for me. So when I actually truly became a real estate investor was in many ways out of necessity. I had done the corporate thing. I'd been part of a couple of large corporate jobs. I had kind of worked myself up through the ranks. I had senior management positions. And one of the last official corporate jobs that I had was with a nationwide home warranty company. We did a lot of work with larger builders and developers. So I really got a firsthand inside view of real estate investing, how much money people were making in development and investing in general. So it kind of reinvigorated that young guy that I was when I bought those books and tapes and never did anything with it. And I decided that while I had a job, I was going to go start to look for real estate deals and try to do some things on my own. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out of my own way doing it. I didn't know where to get started. So what I did was I did a little research and I found a local company that was doing some real estate investor training. And I got started working with this class, basically where they walked me through what they did. I kind of shadowed what they did. And after a short amount of time, I was out there on my own doing my own deals. And after about 6 months of working somewhere between 8 to 12 hours a week as a real estate investor, in addition to my full-time job, I was actually making as much money as a real estate investor as I was in my full-time job. And it became an opportunity for me to decide, look, do I want to continue working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, or do I want to further explore this income opportunity that real estate investing is and turn those 8 to 12 hours into my full-time profession? But probably not unlike a lot of people, I was afraid. It didn't even seem real to me at that point. I was making $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month just as a real estate investor, brand new. And I was pinching myself. I mean, this can't be real. Am I going to be able to scale this up? So the person that I worked with in this class said, look, we're looking for talented people that, number one, are investors, and number two, can actually teach other people. So what ended up happening was, while I was doing my real estate investing, I started becoming a real estate mentor and coach. And I started working with a local company where we trained real estate investors. I taught classes. I did live workshops, and I worked individually with real estate investors. So fast forward over a couple of years, in addition to doing my own real estate investing, and as you said earlier, Conrad, I mean, I've been a part of many deals, many from a standpoint of ones I bought myself, some that I wholesaled to other investors without any money, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Like I said, I've done a lot as an investor, but I've also done quite a bit as a coach, because I worked with a little over 500 individual real estate investors, reviewed thousands of individual real estate transactions. I've been in thousands of properties as an investor and as a coach. And I've really seen a lot of what works and what doesn't work. So my situation was not unlike a lot of people, where I had built a pretty significant business for myself. It got to a point where I was averaging somewhere between 12 and 15 individual real estate transactions on a monthly basis. I had 2 real estate offices. I owned a small real estate brokerage down in Baltimore. I was doing very well. And when the financial markets changed a little bit, not unlike a lot of people, I found myself into a little pinch, because I was finding wholesale deals for investors. And these investors were buying using cash, using home equity lines of credit, which is one of the strategies that's out there. And when they were complete with their rehabs, they were refinancing these properties with local banks. And when the financial markets dried up, it became harder and harder for my buyers to find financing for these properties. So my numbers kind of started dipping a bit. I went from 12 to 15 a month to 6 to 10 to 4 to 6. And I realized that my business was drying up because my buyers weren't able to get their money out of these properties as quick as they'd like to. So what I did is I started researching. I tried to find alternative lending sources, and I got hooked up with a gentleman who was doing some business financing work. And unfortunately, this guy turned out to be somebody that couldn't deliver on any of the things that he was supposed to deliver on. I started basically selling his product. And after about 6 months of selling his product, I learned that not only wasn't it working the way it was supposed to work, but he wasn't delivering on any of his promises. I put quite a bit of my own money into this thing, as well as friends and neighbors and business associates trying to come up with these funding sources. To make a really long, complicated story short, unfortunately, this guy never delivered. So I put everything I had, every penny, into trying to fix these problems. And none of them could be fixed. This guy was basically stringing me and all of my clients along. So what ended up happening is, right around the time that I personally was tapped out with my money, because my investing business slowed down and I was dumping money into fixing these business problems, which most, honest and ethical people try to do, I found myself in a situation where I literally was unable to get these problems solved. And unfortunately, so many people had given us money to try to get this funding and nothing was happening, that we were contacted by the authorities. And what ended up happening, because of this individual that I worked with, I was faced with the decision of being charged with not producing this product. And because I sold his product under my own company name, I was being held responsible. So I kind of didn't have a choice. I had the option of going to trial and facing this. I collected over $1 million of money from not only myself, but from clients and friends and so forth. And I felt an obligation to try to figure out whatever I could do to make it right. But unfortunately, it was flawed from the beginning, because this guy wasn't real. He wasn't producing. He's one of those guys that's out there, and there's a ton of them out there that will make up anything to convince you that you're doing the right thing. So I had a choice. I could either go to trial, or I could take a plea and take some responsibility for my involvement, which I ended up doing. Now that's the ugly part of the story. The plus side of the story is, despite all of that, despite being wiped out and losing everything, I ended up spending 22 months away in a federal prison camp. Somewhere along the way, I was contacted by the authorities, and they said, look, we recognize that your involvement in this was marketing his product, and we'd like your help in pursuing him. So what I ended up doing is I testified at the grand jury, testified against this individual. He was finally charged. He is now being sentenced a year and a half later. In fact, the 16th of this month, he is finally being sentenced for his offenses. So long circle to get back to this point. The point being, as a real estate investor, I had built up a tremendous amount of opportunity and wealth and all of that, and it was all taken from me. And in a year and a half since my release, I'm now running 2 successful real estate businesses. I'm running a successful coaching business, and I never really feared for my ability to go out there and start moving business forward again, because what I knew of real estate investing is it didn't require money, and it certainly didn't require credit if you knew what you were doing. So I've been focusing on developing strategies and expanding strategies for investors that want to make money without putting money out, without investing their credit, without risking. Because one of the things that I'm passionate about is saying to people, look, if you can go out there and not risk those things and make money as a real estate investor, you can absolutely do more and accelerate the pace when you have those things. But there is no reason at all to risk those things as a new investor. So that's my story. I'm extremely passionate about it. I'm born and raised in the Allentown area. I grew up in Emmaus. I've done business all across the Lehigh Valley. I have clients, business associates, people all across the region that I've worked with. I'm extremely passionate about real estate investing because as a professional, I've made 6 figures in 6 different industries. But the only industry that I made multiple 6 figures in was real estate investing. And there isn't anything that special about me. I don't get into my educational background a lot with people, Conrad, but I'm going to tell you, I struggled to get my associate's degree. And by I mean struggle, I mean I struggle. So if you're sitting here and you're worrying about, well, I don't have a great education, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of credit. You don't need any of those things. I'm a guy who barely was a C student. I squeaked out an associate's degree that has nothing to do with real estate. But what I did learn, what I'm very, very good at, what I believe in my own honest opinion that I'm an expert in, is creating systems for making the most of opportunities. And one of the things that I did in real estate investing was I created a system where I could generate 12 to 15 transactions on a monthly basis. And all of those transactions, every single one, was done without using my own money. They were all transactions where I was a facilitator of a deal, a wholesale transaction where I found the deal, packaged it, and then sold it to another investor for a finder's fee, and I didn't use my own money. So that's kind of a little bit about me. That's those are the things that people like to know when they're talking to me about real estate. How do you do that many transactions? How did you make that happen? And that's the long and short of how I did it. I did it using, none of my own money.
Mm-hmm. So Joe, tell us a little bit about the people that you're serving. You gave some examples at the onset when we first jumped in, and you're serving a lot of beginners in a training capacity, which I think is really great. And everyone who's listening in tonight, for the most part, most of the people listening are beginners, which is one of the biggest reasons why we do this. And beginners, as we said, it's a big misconception they need all kinds of money, but there's a lot of action to be had without using their own money. Why don't you, Joe, tell us a little bit about some of the ways to get started or the ways you recommend to help a beginner jump in, get involved in real estate, and start making some money using real estate, using little to no of their own money. Talk to us about what that looks like and teach us how that works.
Well, of course. Here's where most people come into being successful in any endeavor. And it comes from knowing that they can go out and do very specific, duplicatable things, see some results sometime in the immediate future, and know that it's having an impact. Okay. Part of the challenge in real estate investing is there's a lot of different strategies that you can use. Some of them can make you money in the short term. Some of them can make you a little bit of money in the midterm, maybe down the road just a little bit. And other ones will make you money, but it may take quite a bit of time to make that money for yourself. Well, the average person struggles with being comfortable with the idea that, hey, I may get started doing this, but it might take me a long time before I make money. I understand that. Believe me, I'm impatient like that. I want to know if I'm going to do something that I'm going to have an impact and make some money right away. It's no different than opening up your own business on Main Street America, hanging out a sign and saying, look, I'm open for business. Doesn't matter what the business is. The first thing you better figure out is, how am I going to generate revenue? How are people going to find me? How is this going to turn into cash for me? And unfortunately, with real estate investing, depending upon which path you take, Some will lead to money faster. Some will lead to money a little bit further down the road. So what I truly believe, and my philosophy on investing is, the faster that you can generate some type of success, even if it's a small success, go out there and make $500, $1,000, $1,500, whatever. Just go make a little bit of money, put it in your pocket, and know that it's a win. The faster you can do that, the more likely you are to get excited. The longer it takes for you to do that, the less likely you will ever get excited, because eventually you may just give up. If it takes you a month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months to start making money, you may just say, look, this isn't for me. So what I believe is a big, important step for investors to take. It's to go out there and generate some short-term capital first. Even if you have money, even if you have good credit, go make some short-term money first. Use a strategy such as wholesaling, just finding a property, negotiating the terms, getting it under contract, figuring out what it will take to fix that property up. And then instead of you actually buying that property yourself, find another buyer for that property and collect a finder's fee for doing that little bit of work, and put a couple of $1,000s in your pocket doing it. And see, the reason why that benefits a lot of people is, number one, it's a much faster process. You can put something together like that in a matter of a couple of weeks. And for people that have short attention spans, such as myself, I like to be able to have things happen quickly, so I know that they're working. It's very, very important for a new investor to get a win. Just get a win, whatever it looks like. Get a win, make a little bit of money, know it works, and then imagine yourself doing that 2, 3, 6, 10 times a month. Okay. On the flip side, on the opposite side of things, the people that like to go out there and talk about big profits. I'm going to go out and make $80,000 flipping a house. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Well, 9 months from now, when they realize that maybe that was an unrealistic objective and they have thought 20 times about quitting, they may reevaluate their strategy. What I believe to be the case for most people, the sooner you can get that win, even if it's in a short-term strategy like wholesaling, the more likely you are to get excited. And passion and excitement is all about what's going to dictate how far you go with anything. So go get that win, put a little money in your pocket, create a system, a plan that you can duplicate. One of my strengths, as an investor as well as a coach, is to be able to teach people duplicatable systems. How do you go out and duplicate things? How do you generate things once and follow that system over and over again and duplicate it and turn 1 or 2 transactions into 4, 5, 6 transactions? For the average person, if they were to go out and make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month on top of what they are making in their full-time job, it would be life altering. Okay, no question about that. And it doesn't require a lot of money, and it doesn't require a lot of credit to do that. You can go out there and not change your life very much by finding a couple of deals a month, wholesaling them, and making that money. Okay. And there's different strategies. I'm talking about one strategy in wholesaling. There's also lease options, which is another strategy that you can use. Instead of actually getting a contract to buy a house, go and lease one with the option to release it to somebody else and generate an income. There's a lot of creative ways. When you're ready to actually flip properties, and when you have a consistent income stream and money's coming in every month, and the bills are being paid, and you're flush with cash because you're seeing things coming in, then you can think about strategies that may take a little longer. The reason why those longer term strategies don't work for a lot of people is they're not set up either with the patience or the financing to be able to wait until it turns into a profit. And they end up putting themselves in a position where they jump the gun a little bit and they don't make the money that they're supposed to make. So yeah, I'm a big believer in the short-term strategies, Conrad. Go out and get a win for yourself, make a little bit of money, get excited about what you're doing, figure out a way to duplicate that. And then when that's happening every month, then you think about something that's a little bit bigger.
Break down the wholesale with the lease option deal for us, and talk to our listeners tonight a little bit about how that works.
Sure. Well, a wholesale transaction is simply finding a property that you can get at a wholesale or a discount price, estimating what it would cost to put that property in fully repaired condition, meaning getting a contractor in there, figuring out exactly what it would cost to fix that property up, negotiating terms with the seller, in this case through a realtor, because I do a lot of work through realtors instead of directly with sellers, because working with realtors is a lot faster, quite honestly. Negotiating terms with the seller, building in a small fee for yourself in that deal, and being able to show that deal to another investor who might be interested in buying rental properties, and they look for somebody that's going to have a good deal for them to buy. The reality is, Conrad, there's two categories of people. There are people that have a lot of time on their hands, but may not necessarily have a lot of money at their disposal. And on the other side of that equation, there are people that have a lot of money. They have all the money they need, and they want to get in the real estate game, but what they don't have is they don't have the time to do all that legwork. Either they don't have the time or they just don't have the interest. If somebody else goes out there and finds great deals, why should they bother? They'll gladly write a check for a finder's fee to another investor to go do that legwork for them. And the marriage of those two people is really a wholesale transaction. It's one person finding the deal, creating the package, negotiating the right terms, setting it up for the other investor, and then that second investor coming in and writing a check to pay that person who did that work, as well as a check to buy the property and fix it up and eventually do what they want to do with it, whether it's rent it or sell it. So that's the basic of the basis of a wholesale transaction. Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned lease option as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, lease options are a different type of marketplace in that most of the time when you negotiate lease options, and again, I'm talking about two different types. There is lease option as a strategy when you already own a house. The type that I'm talking about is actually going out and creating a deal using a lease option strategy. So I want everybody on the Hangout tonight to just close your eyes, unless you're in a car driving or doing anything dangerous. Just close your eyes for a second and imagine driving down any street, anywhere, any neighborhood. Have you ever in the history of those drives ever seen a for sale by owner sign? Have you ever seen houses for sale by owner? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you that a lot of times, maybe 90% of the time, those houses are for sale by owner because they don't have any equity in that property. The owners just don't have enough equity in that property to have it listed by an agent, pay an agent's commission, cover all the closing costs, all that other stuff, and walk away with any money. So they decide that they're going to try to sell that property on their own. And when they do, they struggle sometimes. And they're looking for some creative solutions. Well, one of the solutions that you can use is, instead of actually buying the house or contracting to buy the house, you could contract to lease the house from the owner with the right to sublease it to somebody else who may want to buy it at the seller's asking price. And I teach people how to negotiate terms in those situations where you could put yourself in the middle of those two parties, okay? So the reality is, as a real estate investor, sometimes you are a buyer, sometimes you are a seller, sometimes you are just a conduit between those two parties. And there are ways of making a really respectable living just as being a conduit in between those two people. You don't have to officially buy anything, you don't have to officially sell anything, but you can negotiate positions in between those two and make a decent amount of money. A lease option is simply doing that, negotiating terms between you and a seller and negotiating terms between you and a tenant buyer. And the aspect of the business of that part of the business that I find very exciting is you're also helping quite a few people. In that side of the business, you're helping somebody who's trying to sell a home and get themselves out of what probably is a little bit of a financial strain for themselves. And you're also helping a tenant buyer on the other end of that transaction who maybe is tired of renting and they want to kind of grow some roots into a home. Maybe it's somebody that lost a home to foreclosure a little while back, and they're repairing their credit and they're trying to get themselves back on their own 2 feet, and they're looking for a place just like that. Well, you can make money as a real estate investor without using your own money by matching up those 2 people. And it's just one of the many, many strategies that you can use to make money in real estate without money or credit.
Real cool. So you could kind of think about it as helping someone get out of a really bad situation into a good one from really both sides. And I see that a lot. And that's really one of the reasons why I like to do this too. And, you know, you see everyone who has a piece of unwanted property, it usually became unwanted because of some situation that changed or some set of circumstances. And in these cases, the reason why I really like working with investors is because investors really in the real estate arena, these are people who are helping these guys out of a bad situation into a much better one. When I think about a wholesale lease option, I kind of use the analogy of the middleman basically kind of in a way renting someone else's house for them. Is that an accurate analogy?
Similar, yeah. I mean, ultimately though, it's really about finding somebody who really wants to buy it. I mean, the best value for everybody involved in that transaction is not just finding somebody who wants to rent it, but finding somebody who wants to buy it and own it and get a mortgage on it and keep it and make it their own. For a lot of reasons, it protects everybody when that person comes into that transaction wanting to own it themselves. There's a big difference between how somebody who owns the property treats a property versus somebody who is just renting it treats a property. So there's value for everybody though when you find that person, because the person that's buying it, they get their own home. The person that's selling it gets out of a bad situation. And an investor, somebody that knows how to handle that transaction and can negotiate that, they can make quite a bit of money in between helping those people solve that problem.
So I think what people are really hearing is a lot of these transactions really require you to connect some different people and really help people out with their needs and their situations. And your ability to do this hinges on you meeting those right people or opportunities. So Joe, why don't you talk about some of the leading ways that you teach your students to meet the people that have these problems or are in these situations, and in order to create this opportunity flow, in order to create this deal flow, how do you and your students go about meeting people in these situations?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm gonna answer that question. I'm also gonna segue to, I think, something that's very, very important. But there are 3 key things that any real estate investor really needs to have to be very, very successful as an investor. And certainly one of those key things is you need to have the right network of resources to work with. You need to have the right people associated with you. Number one, the first thing you need to have is the right mindset. And with mindset, I put the classification of who you associate with. Everybody on this call, everybody that's on this Hangout is a little different than other people that aren't. And the reason is you're interested in looking at something that's going to have a positive change in your life, and you're willing to invest some time out of your personal life to learn a little bit about it. Well, mindset, who you associate with, is the first thing. Thinking about it truly as a business owner is part of that. But the network of people that you work with makes all the difference in the world. Working with the right contractor, property manager, realtor, accountant, attorney, appraiser, cleanup guy, anybody associated to that real estate transaction has an impact on its overall success. And what I've learned, through a lot of experience, a lot of trial and error, as well as, proving to people that this methodology works, is it's all about those relationships. You develop strong relationships with those people, strong relationships with your realtor, strong relationships with your contractor, your property manager. These are not disposable people. These are people that can make or break your success. And unfortunately, we're trained sometimes by society to negotiate the best terms and hold people accountable and make sure that we do all the things that are going to ensure our success. And we forget the human aspects of running a business. You know, you get very good at developing relationships and your business will flourish because people will want you to be successful. I'm going to tell you the secret, and I'll tell everybody the number one secret to how you develop those type of relationships. Listen very carefully. I'm going to whisper it really, really quietly. Take care of their business first. Figure out a way to help them make money. Figure out a way to show them that you're committed to their success as well. There's a long list of people out there that aren't going to care about their success. Don't be one of those people. Be one of the people that differentiates yourself, that works with people the right way and says, hey, you know what? Tell me about your business. I want to know what helps you the most so I can help provide it for you. Now, the best thing about being a real estate investor, you know, in regards to to what you can do for these people is every time you make money, every single time, those people are making money too. They just are. If you're doing a real estate transaction through your realtor, they're getting paid. If your contractor is fixing up a property, whether you bought it yourself or whether you wholesaled it to another investor, they're getting paid. They're making money. So these people benefit. But the hard part, and this is the part that holds back a lot of newer investors, and if you're a new investor on this call, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's finding those people in the first place, making sure you're working with the right people. Part of what I've learned is once you work with the right ones, number one, don't be afraid of sharing them, which we certainly do. Everybody that I'm associated with, I share all my resources with them. Anything from contractors to property managers to anybody that's connected to my business, even our own private lenders, anybody that I coach and mentor, I introduce them to my own private lenders. They get access to the funding that they need. We do all of that to make sure they're working with the right resources. We even go as far as if somebody uncovers their own resource and they're just not sure if they're good for their business, we'll interview them, we'll talk to them, we'll vet them ourselves to make sure that people are working with the right things. So 3 things you need to have. You need to have the right mindset. You need to have the right network. And those resources, Conrad, are so important. And then the final step, which is an area that I think we excel in, I certainly believe I add a lot of value, is in developing systems. Look, nobody goes into wanting to learn about investing in real estate to do it once. You just don't do it that way. You do it that way. You do it with the mindset of going in there and doing it consistently, making a little bit of money and continuing to grow it. You don't start it to do it once. Unfortunately, though, people don't realize that it has to do with systems. It has to do with having a system for everything that you do so you don't miss things, so you get the most out of things, and more importantly, so you can actually build a business. This is not just about learning how to invest in real estate. It truly is about learning how to build a business as a real estate investor. And there is a difference. You can go buy a book or a CD or a DVD and learn principles of investing in real estate. But none of them are truly going to teach you how to build a business doing it. And if you want to prove me wrong, you can check out my library anytime. You can see all the books, the tapes, all the other stuff that I have. Not a single one of them ever got me to buy a piece of real estate. Told me a lot of good information, a lot of invaluable information. But taking action and building a business does not come from a book. It comes from firsthand practical experience from people that have done it before. And that's really what the systems are all about.
What do you see as one of the biggest things that prevent people from taking action or really getting started for the first time? What hangs people up?
Wow, that's a great question. Number one, top of my list, fear of success. You know what? People, even when people know they want and need to make a change in their life, there's almost this natural ingrained fear of literally being successful. It's like, well, if I went out and did this, what would I have to change? Like, what would people say? How would people respond? I mean, it's a fear of success. It's not a fear of failure. People try things all the time and they don't work.
Yeah.
And they kind of move on to the next thing, right? And you see this a lot, Conrad. People try stuff sometimes. It doesn't work out all the time. I believe people are more afraid of success than they are of failure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. The second is a lot of times it's who they're listening to. Sometimes, we have people close to us, friends, family members, neighbors, people that either have the wrong perception of real estate investing themselves. They believe that, it's not possible for somebody to go out and actually do that. It doesn't
Yeah,
work. It's a
I see that all the
scam.
time.
I
Yeah,
mean, it blows my mind that people in this day and age, with how much information is out there, that they still believe that you can't make money investing in real estate.
what I think is really interesting in my work, I serve entrepreneurs, and even entrepreneurs who are well established in business and have been in their business for some time run into this. And even though some people might have a subconscious fear of getting to the next level, other people may have that fear for you too. And what I tell people all the time is, everyone in your life, and even some people who you think are there to support you or are supposed to support you, what you have to realize is if you're going to make a big change, it's scary to those people in your life because they already like you where you're at. Like, you're a lot more comfortable for them if you stay
Yeah,
the same. And
sure.
it's a lot easier for them to relate to you, and it's a lot easier for people around you if you stay the same. And I think that those two big ideas really hold back a lot of people from going to the next level in their business, or starting a business for the first time, or jumping into real estate for the first time, or frankly, starting to make any big change.
Yeah.
And that's no different from people doing their first walkthrough of a house or getting into their first real estate transaction. I think those are two really big factors.
Sure. No, I would agree with you there. I mean, um, there's a natural protectiveness, of course. But unfortunately, life isn't a dress rehearsal. You don't have a second chance at doing this. So what you can't afford to do, nobody can afford to do, is to spend a lot of time in neutral doing nothing about making changes in their life that they know they need to make. And when they face that adversity, whether it's in the form of somebody telling them they can't do it, shouldn't do it, it won't work, or whether they're just even afraid, the number one question you have to ask yourself when you're in that position is the person that's telling me this where I want to be? And if that person is not where you want to be, where, they're not living the life that you want to live, and they're trying to give you advice on what your life should look like, well, then you need to think long and hard about whether or not you do want to listen to their advice. Ultimately, we all make our own decisions. There is nothing out there, nothing that can change fortunes the way real estate can. And I'm not talking about wealth and being a mega millionaire. I'm talking about changing somebody's individual financial fortunes. You can, in a matter of weeks, go from struggling to pay your bills to not only covering your bills, but having enough left over to actually be able to spend on stuff that you didn't even need in the first place. It's out there. It's possible. People do it all the time. Unfortunately, like you said, Conrad, there's a lot of people that will tell them that, oh, that doesn't work. And look, real estate is no different than anything else. For every one successful person you're going to see, there's going to be many people that are unsuccessful. And that usually is because they go down one of many wrong paths. And unfortunately, once you get too far down that path, sometimes it's hard to get back to where you want to go. Going back to an earlier question, another segment of people that I have found myself working a lot with is people that tried real estate investing years ago, didn't get out of it what they thought they were going to get out of it, and they just have to come back because they know nothing else can do what real estate can do.
You mentioned a couple of ways that people kind of go wrong, and I know that there's a lot of people, like you said, coming to you who have been involved in investing in the past. Something went wrong.
Sure.
And I think, going back to a point you made earlier, a lot of those problems could really be solved by having great systems in place. But what are
Yeah.
some of the top, very specific ways that you see people go astray, even people who've been investing for some time?
Sure. Yeah. You mean how people kind of go off the beaten path, and then they wonder what happened.
Yeah, like,
Um,
frankly, they wake up one day and they're like, oh, well, I'm kind of losing my ass here. What do I do?
what happened? Yeah, they find themselves in what we call an alligator property, where it is just eating you out of hand. Sure. Well, you know what? The number one thing, Conrad, I'm going to tell you is, I see people have good systems, and then when it works, all of a sudden they decide, well, I can change this. I can make this better. I can tweak this and adjust that. And look, I'm one of these people that's very straightforward. I'll tell you where I made my mistakes as a real estate investor. It's when I stopped listening to myself when it came to the systems. I would look at it. I had something that was working perfectly well, and then I decided I needed to tweak it or adjust it, and then it wasn't quite working as well as it used to. So the first thing is making changes that aren't necessary. But the number one area that people make mistakes, number one truly is not taking action at all. There's a lot of people that just they are in the getting ready mode. They are getting ready to do something. I'll talk to them and they say, what do you do? I'm getting ready. What are you getting ready for? Well, I'm getting this lined up, I'm that lined up. Face it, you're not doing anything. Getting ready does not count. Okay. So taking no action is the first. The second, without a doubt, is paying too much for property. It doesn't matter what kind of property, what kind of deal, negotiating poor terms for yourself on the purchase price or controlling price of a property is a big mistake. You will make or break your deal the day you buy. It is not when you sell, the way some people think. If you negotiate bad terms for yourself, you may never get out from under. If you negotiate good terms for yourself, or even great terms for yourself, you could have a ton of things go wrong and still make money. So it has a lot to do with the price you pay, and do you pay the right price consistently? So those would be my top two.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that the important thing here is people who are just starting out need to really hear and understand that if you buy it wrong or get into the deal wrong,
Sure.
no matter how good you get at all the other stuff, you either A, might not be able to fix that deal, or B, even if you are able to find a way to fix it, you're at a radical disadvantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think from that standpoint, that's a very smart time to go to someone with experience, or to find yourself a coach or mentor that has a lot of experience vetting deals and looking at the numbers and really figuring out what's what. That way, you know, when you do get in and you do the right things and you take the right action, that you're going to see the results at the other side that you really want. And more on that, I know there's a lot of people joining in tonight who are new. And as I said at the onset, Joe's right here in northeastern PA. So there's a huge advantage there, because you've got somebody who is really experienced with vetting deals right here in the local market. So to have that experience alone, I think, is really invaluable. But Joe, people who really want to sort of go to the next level beyond this live training, beyond this live hangout, and really try to get their feet wet and see what it's like to get started, I know that we've got some resources ready to roll for them. Next week, we're going to do a get-together live and in person. It's going to be a free workshop where we're going to kind of use this content tonight as a jumping off point and really go a bit deeper for people who are really serious about getting involved for the first time. Why don't you talk a little bit about the live workshop that's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of the things that I think is very, very important. I think it's very, very important for people to relate to other people that are successfully doing the things that they want to do. And, you know, I've talked to a lot of investors over the phone. I've talked with a lot of them on Skype, and I've met a lot of them in person. And one of the things that people have shared with me when they hear my story in person, when they see me go through the strategies that I review and teach at this live workshop, there's a relatability there. There is. And meaning they look at me and they go, yeah, this guy isn't anything that special. He's no different than me. And I'm not. The difference is I just have a lot of experience in this particular area. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, it's like, look, if you're going to get into a business, I'm assuming you're getting into it with 100% commitment to actually being successful. So you have a couple of choices. You know, there are options out there. There always are. You can choose who you want to listen to. You can listen to no one. You can listen to the wrong people, or you can go to the people that have already done it, that are successful doing it, that live it and breathe it and experience it every single day. It's kind of like you start a brand new business and you decide, okay, I'm not going to ask anybody for help. I'm just going to do it all myself. Or I can go to somebody that I know does it already. He's fully experienced, has already probably made the mistakes or learned the tough lessons that I want to try to avoid making in the first place. And I can have that person work with me and guarantee my success, but I don't want to pick up the phone and call that person. So what we try to do at this live event is just basically say to people, look, we're going to teach you for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're going to teach you basic real estate investing strategies. We're going to show you how you can go out and make money investing in real estate without using your own money, without using your own credit. One of the things we started doing is we started inviting one of our private lenders to come out to the event to basically say to people, yes, money is available for you to use to buy real estate. I'm going to show examples of actual flip properties that we work on where we don't have any of our own money put into these deals. It's not that you can't do bigger projects, you know, but they just take a little longer to make money. We're going to show you how you can even do that without having any money. The fact is, money, credit, none of those things are limitations if you know how to craft things together. The bigger thing that we do in these live events, Conrad, which is just so invaluable to people, is we keep things extremely real. One of the things that frustrates me to no end are people that talk about real estate investing and it's like it's some magic art form that only the few select can know the powers of real estate investing and exactly what you can do to make money doing it. And if you pay them $30,000, they'll pull back the curtain and show you the secrets. It's kind of like that old show, Magic, you know, Magicians Unveiled, right? It's just not the way it is. But to truly know how to do it and how to be successful as a real estate investor, you better break things down to the core and do things the right way. You go out there, it's kind of like learning how to golf. If you go out there and you're a hacker, you never took a lesson and you just start swinging and you have horrible form and the ball's flying all over the place, you're going to spend a lot of time on the golf course and you're not going to enjoy it as much as you could. But if you invest a little time and commit and invest in yourself to go get a lesson, and all of a sudden you're hitting the ball straight down the fairway and your short game is stronger and you're able to putt better, all of a sudden you're having a much more enjoyable experience. And real estate investing is no different. People think, believe it or not, that you can just go out there and wing it. I mean, they do it for practice. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care if you're a professional athlete. I don't care if you're a professional in a corporate world. Somebody better teach you something for you to get very, very good. And even the best of the best work with coaches. Even people that have reached the pinnacle of success in their individual profession, doesn't matter what the profession, they work with coaches. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with, number one, doing it, but to get to that success, it's not a, you know, what came first, the chicken or the egg. They weren't great before they worked with a coach. They became great because they worked with a coach or a series of them. So one of the things that we do at this live event, Conrad, is we just keep things real. We talk about the realities of what people face financially in today's world. we talk about the reality that, look, the average person does not, they're not looking for a Hail Mary. The average person is looking for a way of just supplementing their income, make a couple $1,000s more a month, and gradually change their life. Because if you do that every month for a while, all of a sudden the problems that you have by being behind on your bills every month, they kind of go away. And then you're talking about degrees of success instead of scrambling to barely get there. And that's what this workshop is about. It's designed to show people, you know, the realities of how real estate investing can change their life, and it can make them do the things they want to do. But really, it comes down to the foundation. It comes from being real, understanding, and more importantly, aligning yourself with people that think the same way you do and that are willing to invest in your success. One of the things that I'm a big believer in is, if you want to work with a so-called expert in anything, make sure they put their success tied to yours. Make sure they stand behind what they're going to do. They back it up 100%, and they tell you, look, here's the way we're going to do this. We're going to guarantee you success this way. That's something that I think that makes our workshop very unique. There isn't anybody out there doing exactly what we're doing.
And the next one is going to take place next week.
Correct. Yep. Our next workshop is Wednesday night. It starts at 7 o'clock at the Best Western in Bethlehem, right off of 512. The spots are filling up pretty quick. We like to keep it to a control group. We don't like to be too large, but we still have some spots available. I encourage anybody who's interested in seeing firsthand one of these live events that they can attend, or if they're just looking for some general guidance or support, to certainly reach out for me directly. I have no problem with that at all.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share the registration link with everyone who RSVP'd for tonight's Hangout.
Okay, great.
It sounds like we've got some interest in some people taking it to the next step. I have heard from a couple of those of you who are watching the YouTube feed. I heard from you via Facebook chat, so thank you very much for being on here and participating. But also what I want to do is I want to give the opportunity for you, Joe, to share some access to you, because some of you are going to want to jump in and get RSVP'd for the live workshop next week, Wednesday in Bethlehem, 7 p.m. And but I do know some of you are going to have some questions that you might want to reach out to Joe beforehand. So I know that last time we did one of these Hangouts, Joe was gracious enough to give his cell phone number and an open invitation for anybody who was hanging out with us to shoot him a text message, ask him a follow-up question, or something specific. Maybe you'll think of an additional question later, something we didn't cover. Joe, what's a good way for people to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the same way. You can reach out for me directly on my cell phone. This number rings to me. You can text me. You can call me. I'd certainly do whatever I can to help. That number is 484-719-3690. I am based in Allentown. I'm in the Allentown area, so I am local. You can certainly reach out to me anytime if you have a general real estate question. If you already know that there's some work that you need to do as an investor and that you're looking for some help doing it, give me a call. I certainly will do whatever I can to point you in the right direction. And I encourage you that, don't think that there's any question that can't be asked. You can ask me anything. If I don't have the answer already, I will commit to you that I will go get the answer for you and make sure that that you get the help that you need.
And believe me, from my experience in just chatting with me on the side and answering some of my questions, use that resource and take advantage of that invitation, because the information that I get from Joe and this, even just the stuff that I learned from Joe personally, is really, really great insight and invaluable. So take him up on that invitation. Again, the link for the workshop next Wednesday night in Bethlehem, that's going to be coming around. So those of you who are really serious about moving further and getting a little bit of step-by-step guidance in how to do some of these deals and how to jump into some of these deals, you're going to want to RSVP, use that link, and meet up with us live and in person next Wednesday night so we can spend a little bit more time together. But we wanted to give you something so you could easily get your feet wet at home without taking too much time out of your schedule. Once we wrap up, which we're about to here, looks like, Joe, we over-delivered again. It's we promise everybody we'll hang out for almost an hour, so we're here a little bit more than that. It's 10 minutes after 9 right now. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for spending this time with us and hanging out. And I hope the content was excellent. I thought it was. And even though I've been doing this for some time, I always find myself taking notes when we're here doing this, which really makes it fun and interesting for me too. And obviously, even though some people are already into investing and have a little bit of experience, you know, you sit and you listen to something like this, you get to answer some questions, you get some ideas, and that's really always happening to me too, which is why I think this is so fun. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to do one again, especially in the groups, so we could offer some more value. Joe, any closing remarks?
No, all I have to say, Conrad, and I think this is so important. I said this earlier, you know, you get one crack at life. You know, it isn't a dress rehearsal. You get one opportunity to live the type of life that you want to live. Do yourself a favor, whether it's real estate or something else. Find something you're passionate about. Get behind it. Do whatever you have to do to make the most of it. I think real estate is one of those vehicles out there that can fuel a lot of passions. There is not a lot of things out there that can do what real estate can do. If you're looking at all successful people, better than 90% of the millionaires that are ever made in history have some connection significantly to that money through real estate. So that should be very, very telling as to where people's money is and where they're making it. Make the most of this opportunity, though. Come out to the live event. If you can't make the live event, if you just can't make it scheduling wise, look, we get it. People have lives. I understand that. Call me direct. I'll gladly sit down with anybody. Sit down, buy me a cup of coffee. You know, I love coffee. I work very, very cheap. Buy me a cup of coffee. I'll talk to anybody related to real estate investing. But reach out. There's help out there. There's people that can point you in the right direction. And make the most of the opportunity. I can't tell you, not a day goes by, truly, that I don't appreciate the fact that I invested a little time in getting educated about being a real estate investor, because my life would look entirely different. And don't let that happen to you. Make sure you make the most of the opportunity.
Great final thoughts. Thanks so much for sharing. And, you know, from one investor to another, what I will say is that if you want to make a big change, this stuff works. So jump in and start learning what you can from resources like this. As I promised, I'm going to send that link around to everybody who RSVP'd, so you can fill that out, and we'll hope to see you next week. Joe, thank you so much for being here with us, and thanks for sharing your thoughts and ideas, your experience, and everything else with us. It's been really valuable. Thank you so much, everybody.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.